Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Wow, look at all the mingling. This is awesome. Okay, good afternoon and a warm welcome to the 12th Annual Washington Leadership Academy. We are so happy to have each of us with you here today and over the next few days, and most importantly, we are so happy that everyone has arrived safely. On behalf of the HOSA Executive Council and the HOSA Inc. Board of Directors, we thank you for attending WLA, an incredible conference where we come together to celebrate HOSA future health professionals. I encourage you this year to take HOSA's 2018-2019 theme, Define Your Purpose, to heart. Each person's life and journey are filled with stories and unique events that make us each an individual. No two stories are the same, and this is what allows us to celebrate and champion these differences. If you think about it, each health professional has a unique role, expertise, and ultimately drive for their passion in medicine. As future leaders of the healthcare community, we can exemplify the mission of HOSA and its core values: learn, lead, serve, and innovate. One way we can do this is to take back what we learned at the Washington Leadership Academy, to have our own individual associations and local chapters implement the skills that we have gained. While at WLA, you will have the opportunity to network with one another and receive a multitude of resources that will better prepare you to kickstart your HOSA year. You will be learning leadership principles about yourself as well as your role as a HOSA leader. Pablo Picasso once said, "Action is the foundational key to all success." You will each have the opportunity to take action here at WLA, which can help you in defining your purpose. However, that step is up to you, and I can promise that the more you engage and step outside of your comfort zone, the more you will gain from your time here at WLA. Now, let's get your 2018-2019 HOSA journey started by introducing your Executive Council, who will be helping you while you're here at WLA and then throughout your HOSA year. I would like to begin with Vivian Doe, your President-elect.
Hi, my name is Vivian Doe, and I'm honored to be serving as your President-elect. I am beginning my first year at UCLA as a microbiology major. I'm beyond excited for everyone to attend all the leadership sessions and to engage with our curriculum and to see how everyone plans on bringing these concepts back to their state and their local chapters. I'm pleased to introduce our Western Region Vice President, Ara Omatoa.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ara Omatoa, and I'm serving as your Western Region Vice President. I'm going to begin this year as a freshman at Harvard College, and I'm majoring in government. And I'm most excited to see all of you advocate for your own education on Capitol Hill. am pleased to introduce your Central Region Vice President, Darius Thomas, to the podium.
Hello everyone, my name is Darius Thomas and I'm super excited to serve as your Central Region Vice President. I'm a freshman at the University of Alabama majoring in public health. And with that being said, I'm super excited at WLA. This is my first time attending WLA, so I'm super excited to see everything WLA has to offer. Now let's meet your Eastern Region Vice President, Riya Gupta.
Hello everyone, I am Riya Gupta, your Eastern Region Vice President. I'm so honored to be here with all of you today. I am a freshman at the University of Michigan and I will be majoring in public health, and I'm so excited for all of the industry tours that DC has to offer us at this wonderful conference. I would like to welcome your Post-Secondary Collegiate Vice President, Austin Brewer.
Hi, my name is Austin Brewer, and I am your Post-Secondary Collegiate Vice President. Currently, I am attending the University of Kentucky, where I study anthropology. The thing I'm looking forward to this conference is the networking opportunities we are giving you all. The friendships you will make here will last a lifetime, so take advantage of that. Now, I would like to introduce you all to your secondary board representative, Kartik Tyagi.
Hello, everyone. My name is Karthik Tyagi, and I'm serving as your secondary board representative for this year. I'm currently a senior at Enloe High School in Raleigh, North Carolina, and the thing that I'm most excited for during this conference is to, hopefully, if the weather permits, tour DC and see the beautiful city we call our nation's capital. And now, please welcome our post-secondary collegiate board representative, Bergen Mackey.
Hi everyone, I'm Bergen Mackey. I'm a junior at Western Carolina University, double majoring in environmental health sciences and Japanese studies. I'm so excited to be here in one of the most historic places in our country, surrounded by young people who are about to make history themselves. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Sarah Fleischman, your president.
Thank you, Bergen. Once again, my name is Sarah Fleischman, and I'm proud to be serving as your president. I'm a senior at the University of Florida, majoring in public health, and this year I'm really excited to capture all the energy that is gained at WLA and just propel it for the rest of the HOSA year. You guys with me on that? Woo! All right. Well, okay, just one more time, like propelling that energy. Woo! There we go. All right. Thank you all. Now, there's a very special group of individuals that we would like to thank them for all that they do. So will all state and local advisors please stand so we can recognize you. Thank you for your hard work and your continuous support of this organization. Now, we would not be where we are today without HOSA's leadership, the foundation of this organization. Please hold your applause until everyone has been introduced, and if you'd like, you can stand when your name is recognized. Please join me in welcoming from the HOSA Inc. Board of Directors, Karen Hay from the Health Science Education Supervisor, she's our representative, Brock Rops, immediate past board chair, Janet Villarreal, chair-elect, and Dr. Peg Enslin, HOSA Inc. Board Chair, who I would now like to welcome to the stage.
Good afternoon. I am Peg Enslin, the HOSA Inc. Board Chair and State Advisor for the First State. On behalf of HOSA Inc. Board of Directors, it is my pleasure to welcome you to Washington, D.C. I have heard HOSA members say that WLA is a life-changing experience, and I have witnessed those same members leave WLA with a great deal of confidence in the skills that they've developed and excited about the new relationships they have started. Please take full advantage of WLA to learn as much as you can, develop as many skills as you can, and begin to build as many relationships as you can in the time that you are here. Thank you for being here, and again, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Enslin. I'd now like to welcome Darius Thomas, Central Region Vice President.
Today, we are honored to be joined by an exemplary health professional, a champion, and an advocate for HOSA. Captain Paul Reed, MD, is a senior U.S. Public Health Service officer currently assigned as Deputy Director at the National Center for Disaster Medicine and Public Health. Captain Reed holds faculty appointments in global health, military and emergency medicine, and pediatrics at the Uniformed Services University of the Health Sciences in Bethesda, Maryland. Captain Reed graduated from Boston University with a Bachelor's of Arts in Biology to immediately attend Boston University's School of Medicine and specialize in pediatrics. He joined the United States Navy and served our country for 14 years. There, he rose through the ranks, culminating as Department Head of Pediatrics at the National Naval Medical Center, one of the largest and renowned institutions for providing care to war heroes. At the end of his 14 years of service in the U.S. Navy, his service to our country was not over. He learned about the public health service and joined in 2008. He has since served in several roles and tasks, such as Director for Global Health Operations for the U.S. Surgeon General, Deputy Director of the Medical Reserve Corps, Director of Health Futures Initiative, and Assistant Professor for Global Health at Uniformed Services University of the Health Sciences. America's medical school. In 2014, during the Ebola outbreak, he served as the chief medical officer for the U.S.-built hospital in Liberia. Captain Reed left the comfort and safety of his own home, family, and friends to venture into Africa and assist with the containment and control of Ebola. As you can see, his accomplishments in service to our country have been in many roles, and we are proud to call Captain Paul Reed a HOSA friend. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Captain Paul Reed.
Good evening. Thank you very much. I'm not big on podiums, so you're not going to see me standing behind that tonight. Sorry, my mic is, there we go, okay. I had the pleasure of speaking to HOSA at the International Leadership Conference a few years back in Anaheim, California. Probably one of the foremost experiences in public speaking I've ever had. And I'm going to start my conversation today with you all the way I did back then, and that's say, wow. I have been overwhelmed by this organization going on 6 or 7 years, I think, since I first was introduced to you all. And you all never cease to amaze me. The organization never ceases to amaze me, much less the individuals that make it up. And I am truly humbled to be here. And yet again speaking to you all. So thank you for that, okay? A week ago today, literally last Saturday, I was sitting in my living room fretting. I was a little verklempt that my garage door automatic opener had exploded and scared my wife and I to death. And I had no faculties about myself to repair it, so I was frustrated about that. And it was one of the hottest weeks of the year, probably one of the hottest weeks in DC ever, and my air conditioning blew. My upstairs air conditioning where all the bedrooms are. So I was frustrated at that, and I was regretting that I didn't have the faculties to repair an air conditioner as well. So I was sitting there feeling very badly about myself and incompetent and wondering what my purpose was. Falling victim to all of these things naturally that, things happen, right? And I get an email. I'm sitting there like I always do, responsive to my email. I tend to get a lot of them. And this one's from George Stefakis from your organization. And he says, hey, Paul, do you want to come and speak to the leadership of HOSA next week? The topic is define your purpose. And I thought, that's either God talking to me or George Stefakis is channeling all sorts of spirits. And my wife, who I was commiserating with, looks at me and goes, what? What? Because she sees me, evidently looking befuddled by my email. And I said, well, you remember all that stuff I was just concerned about? Yeah, it's no big deal. Now I've got a big deal. Now I have a purpose to serve. So I was asked to talk to you about defining a purpose. Let's get something straight here. I am not self-actualized. As the Buddhists and Taoists would say, I am not enlightened, although I hope to be one day. I don't speak to you from high on the hill. I don't really have all the answers. I guess George and maybe Jim and Karen and others have recognized in me that I've served some purpose over the years, though. And I guess in a way I've felt purposeful in my life, in my professional life in particular, many times. So that's where I'm going to speak to you from, okay? Now, what do I have to share with you? Nothing miraculous, frankly. In fact, when I was entertaining how to approach this subject, I decided, you know what I was going to do? I was going to turn to my left at my desk and take some pictures of the things that remind me of how to live a purposeful life. Because I keep them on my bulletin board right adjacent to my desk. And I literally did just that. I took out my cell phone and I just started snapping some pictures. And I thought, you know what? There's a story here. And maybe there's some meaningful points that we could walk away with. The first one is learn to take care of yourself. Learn to take care, period. Don't take that lightly. I've done a lot of different things in a lot of different places in the world, many of them very austere. And I learned pretty quickly, this was a long time ago, that if I wasn't first physically mindful of how I was doing and responsive to those physical needs, everything else didn't matter. And recognizing what the purpose was I was supposed to be serving wasn't going to happen. I wasn't going to have that clarity of mind. I wasn't going to be in a safe place in terms of my consciousness and my cognitive ability to think through all the aspects of whatever purpose I was serving at the time. So for me, it started with how I was feeling physically. I actually learned that in a personal time in my life too, a number of years ago, a little over 20 years ago. I had a son who died at the time. And in that experience, I fell apart, as you can imagine. Most people would. But I only recovered from that experience by first recognizing that I physically was not taking care of myself. So I took baby steps to get back to a purposeful life by feeding myself well, by getting up and moving, and then starting to breathe more deeply, and then starting to entertain what an emotional facet of my well-being looked like. And then I went on from there. 21 years later, I'm very happy to say that lesson has impacted me in the most profound ways and lifted me up under the most trying circumstances. So I'm going to encourage you to think about that first and foremost. And then it goes from there. And I don't mean for this list, this prioritized list, this is my list, by the way, to be for you. It might represent something that is applicable to you, but this is for me. And I think about it all the time. And if I look over and I see this, and I tell myself, you know what? You are too heavily focused on your occupational outcomes. You're losing track of those things about your family life right now, Paul. Be mindful of that. And in fact, you know what? When was the last time you got up and did some push-ups? Yeah, I literally have that conversation with myself. I do. So the first takeaway is take care. Because in taking care of yourself through whatever set of priorities you define for yourself, all of a sudden everything else becomes a little bit more reasonable and a little bit more evident. You all familiar with François Gautier? Is anybody familiar with him? He's a French journalist. Spent a fair amount of time in India, the subcontinent. And he's oft quoted for a variety of reasons, but this is one of his more famous quotes. And it's one that I hold dear as well. I've actually came across this when I was doing research on meta-leadership and what it means to think outside your normal space and be able to reach across boundaries and lead from where you are. And I've come to realize this has implications in that vein, but it also has implications in more profound and very broad ways. I'm listening to I listen to books because I have a long commute. Don't have much time to sit and read a book. And I'm listening to Tom Friedman's most recent book, and he talks about the complexity of things and how rapid things are changing, and how complex they are, and what the implications on society are as a result of that. He touches on a concept that I've heard actually repeated in a number of different ways, including in higher education. And that is, we have gotten to a place in our world, and this resonates with my personal life too, and my professional life, of such complexity that it doesn't matter how much you know or what you know. It really doesn't. You all have access to every bit of information that you could possibly want in your hand or in your pocket. You can just reach out and you can find the information you need. So being knowledgeable really isn't as valuable as it used to be. But knowing what to do with that knowledge, that means something. Knowing how to think about what it is you know and what it is you don't know, maybe even more so what it is you don't know, means something. And that's the clarity that François Gautier is speaking about. And that's what it means to be wise. It pays to not only be wise in your own mind and catching yourself in the way you think about the way you think. Has anybody ever heard that term? But it also pays to be wise about the way others think and be mindful of what their motivations are, their aspirations are, their influences are that are driving the way in which they think and they engage you and others around you. That pays dividends as well when ultimately you're seeking to find what purpose you serve and how you can best serve it amongst others. This image and this model, this aspirational model, first of all, I'm going to give credit where credit is due. This aspirational model was formulated by the Institute for Alternative Futures a number of years ago, a couple of decades ago now, I believe. And the graphic itself is a pictorial by Eileen Clegg. If you're not familiar with graphic journalism, this is actually the storytelling or the depiction of what is spoken or written through graphic images. And Eileen, a good friend of mine, she actually drew this in the midst of a conversation in a room about half this size. There was, I don't know, maybe 100 people in the room. And we were having a conversation about the aspirational model. And as we were going through it and as we were employing the aspirational model, she was drawing it. And I said, Eileen, I'm stealing that from you and I'm going to use it. And I actually use it on a daily basis to remind myself of a few things. So I'm going to walk you through this real quick because I think it's important in life. You can see there's a line down the middle of the graphic. And that's because there's basically two ways under the aspirational model to approach being in the world. And most of us as humans fail routinely, and we live on that right-handed side of the model, where our circumstances seem large, they are overwhelming, they're what we're always paying attention to. And that's good, bad, and ugly. But we live in our circumstances. And we formulate our entire day's plan around how to tackle our circumstances, whether that be our relationships or our school or our work or whatever the case may be. And we're getting really good at paying attention to our shoe tops and plugging away. But in doing that, especially in focusing on the problematic side of our circumstances, we end up building up this negative conversation. Kind of, in a way, it feels like you're running on a treadmill but not getting anywhere, or swimming in a bucket, not getting anywhere. And then there's a consciousness and a subconsciousness that goes along with that, where you have all this negative relationship with that way of living. Who here has had that experience? I just described it for myself last Saturday morning when I was sitting in my living room. At some point today, I probably had it if I stopped and thought about it. It's human. And oh, by the way, that plays out in a lot of different ways in terms of psychology and then in terms of sociology, in terms of the way we behave with others. But there's an alternative to that, and that is if you first start in that upper left-hand corner with some aspiration, with some ideal, that best case scenario of life and living and the world as you see it. You don't have to describe it in every detail. You just have to know, maybe with reference to this particular thing, what your image of the best circumstance would be. Not what the reality is, but what the ideal is. And then you go from that ideal to having it influence, and it's a conscious effort, by the way. This is not easy. You have to force yourself to be mindful of that aspiration routinely. And this can have to do with your profession, it can have to do with your personal life, it can have to do with literally anything. It have to do with getting up in front of 250 people and talking. I employed this today, thank you very much. So in holding dear to that ideal, that aspiration, and being conscious of it, being mindful of it, all of a sudden, believe it or not, it plays out in the way you communicate, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you bump into people, the way you touch people, the way you don't touch people, naturally. Some of that is conscious, much of it is unconscious. And all of a sudden you start influencing not only yourself in a more positive way and in a more productive way, but you actually are influencing others. And believe it or not, there's a body of science to support this. And then all of a sudden your perception of your local circumstances, your real world circumstances today becomes a lot different. And you become a lot more impactful in how you carry out. This is my mantra. Now, I had the luxury, because of this uniform, of being told what to do for the past 25 years. It helps when somebody tells you you are going to go do something, whether you like it or not, because you don't really have a choice. And if that other thing that you're being told to go do happens to be way outside your comfort zone, guess what? So what? you still have to serve a purpose. And there you are. Now, the truth is, in all of our lives, in all aspects of our lives, we do have a choice to keep ourselves in our comfort zone for the most part, or venture out. I'm looking across this audience right now, recognizing you all venturing out. And I encourage you to keep doing that. And do it even more so. Like once this gets comfortable, go somewhere else. Or take this experience with you. Because in getting to the uncomfortable and the unfamiliar, all of a sudden you start to learn enormous things about yourself that you otherwise would never have recognized. And oh, by the way, this pertains to leadership in a big way. I've led, not only have I taken myself or had a boot in my rear end kick me into far off places, but I've also dragged with me others. And I've had to lead them into these circumstances. It doesn't have to be far off places like the Ebola crisis in sub-Saharan West Africa. It could be in your classroom. But it's all about your approach, the way in which you relate to your experience. You know, choosing to take this course of action in your career path versus that. What do you think influences people in that decision more so than anything else? It's what they're comfortable with. And most of the time we say, oh, well, I know this, or I have an understanding of this, so I'm going to follow that path. I was blessed to be told what to do, and my path was laid out for me for the most part. And it was scary at times. But in that, I found purpose. And I would encourage you to realize that more often than not, learning those things about yourself that you can only realize by getting out of your comfort zone is where purpose really lies. Has anybody ever seen this quote? It's not an uncommon one. My daughter said she found it on Pinterest, whatever that means. This too is tacked on my bulletin board. For those of you who can't see it, I'm going to read it real quick. Opinion is really the lowest form of human knowledge. It requires no accountability, no understanding. The highest form of knowledge is empathy. For it requires us to suspend our egos and live in another's world. It requires profound purpose, larger than the self kind of understanding. It requires profound purpose, larger than the self kind of understanding. The more experience we have thinking about our own experience, rather than that of others, the less we are ultimately going to find that profound purpose for ourselves. I don't know where Bill came up with that, but it works. You share a lot with your peers in this organization. I think it's tremendous. You also share a lot with your advisors. I would encourage you to live in that. Really take something from that. Give up of yourself and your own perspective this week and live in the perspective of those around you and see what kinds of things you realize. This week is a heck of an opportunity for you guys. I wish I had it back when I was your age. I really do. But in experiencing it, try to experience it through the eyes, the joy of those around you, and see what you realize. The last thing about purpose I want to make sure I share with you is that it is personal. No one can tell you what your purpose in life is. No one. Who here has, the older crowd, who here realized their purpose by somebody else telling them to go out and do that thing? It doesn't work that way. Your parents might think they have the right answers for you. They certainly have your best interests at heart, I'm sure. But your purpose comes from these other things. It comes from your aspirations. It comes from your motivations. It comes from your ability to clearly see the way others see and think things. That's how you frame yourself. These pictures, by the way, these are a variety of things, but the children, I'm a pediatrician. I'm a pediatrician by profession, but I'm also a pediatrician in my heart. I didn't become a pediatrician by accident. That happened. And I find a lot of motivation for myself, my personal, profound purpose comes from the way in which I see children interact in the world and the way children are impacted by the world. These images were from a number of years ago when I was in some remote parts of Central America. They're rather plain and simple images, I think, on first blush. But to me, there's a lot more there. Okay, so I want to leave you with this. I was asked to talk to you about defining your purpose. I hope I didn't convey that that is my approach, because I've never sought to define my purpose. I may have when I was younger, when I didn't know better. But because I was influenced to go and do so many different things for so many different reasons, oftentimes reasons I didn't necessarily understand, and found something different about my life, what I came to realize is I realize my purpose. Because my aperture was wide open, or I learned to open up my aperture and allow all of that other information to come to me so that what I am supposed to be doing is much more evident. I hope you all can do that. I hope you can walk away from here and from this experience, particularly in this week, this shared experience, with your eyes wide open and realizing from each other there's as much to learn as there is through your own eyes. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Reed, so much for your words to us. Your words have not only shown your insights, but also your dedication to the health service and the station. Again, could we have another round of applause for Captain Reed? The leadership session is going to begin after this session at 5 p.m. State leaders are going to be in Van Buren, local leaders are going to be in Salon C, and state and local advisors are going to be in Commonwealth. Thank you again for coming, and we are so excited to have you for this WLA. Yeah,